So yes,
Yes, it's
okay. Hello
working well.
everyone.
Perfect.
Yes, hello everyone. Welcome to the webinar. I think I want to start off by really appreciating every single students and parents' enthusiasm for them to joining on a Sunday with us over here and all the sets of webinars that I think the organization has been hosting. So yes, again, thank you, Devish. Thank you, Next Genius Foundation, for inviting me as Asylum to your space. I think it's a wonderful initiative that you guys have taken up to connect educators, to connect people from all sorts of backgrounds and organizations to come together and host a space with the learners, the parents and the students of tomorrow. So thank you so much, Devish, to start off. So I won't waste a lot of your time. I'll just begin right away. So yes, hello everyone. My name is Aman. I am a 21-year-old graduate from this college called NMIMS Mumbai. And I studied business. And somehow I landed up in this organization called Makers Asylum, which focuses on experiential learning. The organization focuses on architects, designers, engineers, and people coming from all sorts of backgrounds. And being a business student over there, I obviously go ahead and handle the program and the strategy. So that's what I'll be talking about today. I'll be talking about what Makers Asylum is, what kind of history as an organization we come up with, what have we done in the past few years, and why we believe that a learning platform can add a lot of value to every single person in the entire world. So let's start. So Makers Asylum is primarily a community makerspace which started some 6 years back in Mumbai, and we are focused on fostering innovation through hands-on learning and purpose-based learning. And when I say hands-on learning, I really mean it. But that you come to the space, you get your hands dirty and make ideas happen. That's what we do as an organization. We host various labs inside the organization, right from let's say a woodworking workshop, right from let's say a metalworking workshop, right from let's say a 3D printing, sum it all up, as an organization, we are committed to idea of problem solving. So talking more about a space, let's say when you enter the space, this is how it looks like. This is how our Mumbai space used to look like. And right now, we recently moved on to Goa, the land of beaches and the Hawaii of India. So this is how the Mumbai space used to look like. It looks like a chaos, I can imagine, in this picture. So if you move around the space, you can find, let's say, something like a metal shop, wherein you'll see people working with all sorts of metal working, building anything from scratch. Actually, in one corner, you can probably find someone working on something like this, which looks like a bicycle. And in some corner, you can already find someone working on their own electric bike as well. If you move around, then you can probably find a wood shop as well, wherein people are probably carpentering, people are finishing their woods, people are understanding different kinds of woods that are there. If you move around, you'll also find a laser cutting lab, wherein we are cutting metal, we are cutting all sorts of equipments to make sure that our designs and prototypes of everything that we are making are top-notch quality. And we have a 3D printing lab too, wherein we make sure that rapid prototyping is done in the most efficient way possible as well. So all in all, the space houses multiple kinds of facilities that are required by every single person to come down. And again, as I've been saying over and over again, build things from scratch. And that's the idea that Make Asylum works with. That's the idea that we try to foster in every person in the entire world. So yeah, we can also find an electronics lab. Actually, I forgot to mention that. So you can find people soldering, you can find people playing around with different circuits and figuring out what works and what doesn't work best for them. So yeah, it's a community space overall. When I say that Makers Asylum is a community space, I mean that people from all ages, people from all backgrounds, people from all sorts of professions, be it students, be it working professionals, be it, let's say, people who have retired, people from all nationalities, and people from all sorts of backgrounds come at one place to figure out how can we make this world a better place. And that's what the idea of the organization is about. It's a community maker space focused on hands-on learning. And that's the idea that we are trying to propagate in every single person in the entire world. We're trying to build a maker mindset wherein every single person can identify problems from a user perspective and come up with rapid solutions for the same. And that's where the core of the organization is based. So that's a vision. We as an organization, it is to foster an innovative ecosystem in India in the areas of hardware, design, and sustainability. And this is a vision that Makers Asylum has been committed to for the past 6 odd years, for ever since we started back in Mumbai. So moving ahead, I want to talk about a bit about our methodology, so you guys have some context about the kind of skills and the kind of, let's say, attitude, or the kind of, let's say, behavior that I believe are very relevant in today's world. So, as a student myself, I believe that the art of problem solving isn't just limited to understanding problems. It goes around these three pillars that I'm talking about, out of which number one is design thinking, right? So, when I say design thinking, I mean you understand every single problem from a user centric approach, wherein the value of empathy, wherein the value of you understanding how can you put yourself in the shoes of the customer or the end user to understand the end problem or the end bottlenecks come into play. And then you go ahead and build various problem statements, the solution statements, and the prototype for the same. I think design thinking is one of the most, let's say, influential skill sets when I talk about the coming world, the coming age that we are in right now. Next, we have is frugal innovation. I am 100% certain that everyone who's there on this call right now has at least once in their life have heard of this word called jugaad. And that's what I refer to by frugal innovation. Actually, frugal innovation is a technical term for this word called jugaad. And if you look at it, I'm sure all of you know what jugaad is. But to put it in a simpler means, it means solving problems and building prototypes by utilizing minimum resources financially and in terms of the people resources that we invest. So yeah, combining frugal innovation, combining design thinking, and combining rapid prototyping, which is understanding how can we build sustainable models using 3D printing and using CAD modeling in a very efficient way to combine these three and have located a prototype at the center of it. So these are the kind of methodologies, the kind of three pillars that we work with. And at the heart of it are the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. I'm 100% sure that all of you are aware that 17 SDGs that United Nations are willing to achieve by the year of 2020 for 2030 for that matter. And I think, in fact, every single country, every single organization, every single young person in the world should be aware of what the SDGs are. And this is what Make Us Asylum is committed to. We are utilizing these three concepts, design thinking, frugal innovation, and rapid prototyping, to have SDGs in the center of it to figure out how can we solve hunger in the entire world, how can we reduce poverty, how can we foster innovation and industrial learning, how can we go ahead and reduce the kind of damage that we are doing to the climate action that we have today. So the 17 SDGs is what we are committed to, and these are the three methodologies that we use to basically figure out the kind of solutions that we can for the world of tomorrow. So just moving forward, I want to talk about a bit more about the kind of projects we have done in the past, the kind of impact that we have delivered in the world outside, how we have gone ahead and changed people's lives. Before I move ahead and start talking about how can you become a part of our community, how can you become a part of a learning platform, and how can you become someone who can change someone's life. So to start with, I want to talk about this project called Plastic Safari. So a couple of years back, we realized that learning, innovation, and problem solving is a mindset. It's not a skill. It's a mindset that needs to be developed into every single person at a very young age. And that's the foundation that we built this idea on. We decided that children are very powerful change makers when it comes to influencing the society. They drive the change at home. They are the behavior change makers when it comes to their home, and they are the consumers of the future. So keeping that in mind, we came up with Plastic Safari, which has been designed as an interactive solution to change the students' approach and behavior towards waste disposal with a focus on waste segregation and inspiring them to become change agents of the community of tomorrow. So imagine, let's say, if you have a young child or younger brother or younger sibling or anyone at your home, and he or she or them understands the waste segregation much better than, let's say, most adults of today. And that's the kind of mindset we want to build with, because these children are going to be the consumers of tomorrow. 10, 20, 25 years later, these children are going to be the ones who will be influencing the society. These children are going to be the ones who will be driving the society both economically, financially, environmentally, and all the other aspects as well. So that's why we came up with Plastic Safari. And talking about its impact, in less than 6 months we had 25,000 children engaged with our entire program. We had more than 1,20,000 direct beneficiaries who were a part of it, and we had 50 plus schools who engaged us in the entire program. And in fact, Hindustan Univer Limited came ahead and said that they wanted to support our cause as well. So we went ahead and partnered with them too. Moving ahead, we recently started with this Textile Lab for women artists in Jaipur. So French Embassy and Makers Asylum came together and understood the kind of bottlenecks that are there when it comes to understanding the kind of skill level that's there in the grassroots level of India. So when you go ahead in India, India is a very diverse country in itself. There are people coming from all sorts of backgrounds. There are people coming from all sorts of ages, people coming from all sorts of professions who have a knack for hands-on learning because of the kind of history the entire country has, the kind of traditions that we have had, and all these traditions have been unfortunately curbing down slowly. All these traditions have been dying slowly, which is where French Embassy in India and Makers Asylum came together and started this platform for women all across Jaipur to understand how can they use their skills of art, craft, and design with the community that we have today. So we started a lab from scratch in Jaipur a couple of years back with 1 acre of land spread across 4,000 square feet as a lab space, primarily focused on all these artists who came from a very, let's say, a modest background in Jaipur, to make sure they have the right platform to showcase the skills and for them to make a living out of them too. So, talking about the kind of impact we had in international exposure, we had the French embassy hosting the Daya Fashion House for them. We had 50 plus artists involved from the city of Jaipur coming down to our space and understanding how they can use their skills that they learned 20, 30, 40 years back that they thought were obsolete, and then understanding how can they be rapid prototype to make sure that they are building a community for themselves that can foster an innovation culture within the city of Jaipur in this particular community. And one more project I want to talk about is Steam Fabricarium. So, Steam Fabricarium is basically an initiative designed to improve the capabilities of differently abled community by involving them in the process of problem solvings with people coming from design background, people coming from engineering background, people coming from architecture background and other sources. So again, the French embassy, the MHK, which is the My Human Kit, and Makers Asylum came together and hosted this 15-day event with multiple participants who came down from differently able backgrounds. And the entire concept was revolving around what kind of problems are these people facing when it comes to understanding, let's say, the kind of physical disability that they're having to go through, and how can these be tackled using the three concepts, the three pillars of innovation, design thinking, rapid prototyping, and frugal innovation that I spoke about earlier. And the results were beautiful. The results involved 20 plus people coming from all these backgrounds coming down, understanding how can we make bionic hands for them, how can we prototype more and newer technology at the cheapest rate to make sure that they are not being made they are not feeling differently when it comes to the entire program. So these are the kind of projects that we have been working with in the past. And moving forward, recently Makers Asylum came up with this project called M19 when the COVID hit us, when the coronavirus happened back in March 17th, March 18th, when the entire nation went into lockdown. And Makers Asylum decided that this is an opportunity of window. When a lot of people saw this as crisis, us as an organization took a step forward and said that, I am not going to sit at my home. I'm going to rather lock myself in the community makerspace itself. So to build what kind of solutions are required for tomorrow. And that's what happened. The entire Makers Asylum team locked themselves inside Makers Asylum for a few days and started building face shields for the frontline workers. I have a quick video, if you guys don't mind, that I'd like to play for you guys to understand how the entire initiative went on.
Hey guys, this is Deva Chabra from Makers Asylum, Mumbai, India. We've been making face shields since the 23rd of March when India decided to go on lockdown to help control the COVID-19 virus. At that time, India had a huge shortage of PPE equipment, and especially face shields. These things protect medical healthcare professionals, primarily doctors and nurses that are coming in contact with COVID-19 patients. This helps you by direct splashes of mucus or spit particles directly coming to your face, and also helps you by not touching your face again and again and spreading that virus. When we began with a mere goal of making 10,000 face shields in our lab. However, now we've given, as of today, over 1 million face shields across more than 40 cities, towns, and villages through the initiative of the M19 Collective, where we open source the design, shared it with all the other communities, other labs, other makers across the country, and who started making these M19 face shields. Everyone requires basic protection, and hence we've decided to open these out for everyone who wants to buy them and want them. And you can buy them right here on our store, which is makersasylum.com/shop.
Right. So when the idea of M19 came to us, when the world was in the middle of a crisis, we decided that we wanted to go ahead and build these face shields for the frontline workers of tomorrow, which includes the defense personnel that we have in India. which includes the police of India, which includes all the health professionals who were dealing with COVID 19 on a very early basis. And that's when we decided that the objective of the entire initiative is not to go ahead and build a better name for Makers Asylum. It's not to go ahead and make maximum profits for Makers Asylum. It's not to go ahead and do the entire program for a selfish purpose. It was actually to bring about an impact, a change in the middle of crisis, because that's what the organization stands for. The organization doesn't stand for figuring out how can we rather mitigate crisis. It stands for figuring out how can we see the opportunities wherein the problems are arising and building the prototypes and solutions in the most efficient way. And that's what we did. We locked ourselves inside the space. I remember it was back in March. It was a team of 10 people locked inside a huge room of Makers Asylum, the entire community maker space, with no one allowed to go outside or inside. And over the next 30 days, we decided that we want to start off by building 10,000 face shields. And it came to our surprise that in the first 60 days itself, instead of building 10,000 face shields, we ended up building 1 million face shields that reached out to all parts of India, that reached out to all kinds of people who would require these face shields at a very cheaper cost in India. And we ran this through a crowdfunding campaign. We had various supporters and community maker spaces coming down from all across the country and supporting our initiative. We kept the entire process of building these face shields as an open learning platform so that people who have the resources with them at their home also build these face shields. In fact, we had school students, 10, 12, 13, 14-year olds, making these face shields for us at their homes to contribute to the entire program. And that's how we got together. We got together a different community of people from coming from all sorts of all backgrounds in India and all regions in India coming together for one initiative. So yeah, that's more or less about the M90 initiative. And I think now I want to talk about the kind of learning platform that Makers Asylum has to offer, of why we believe that as an organization we can add a lot of value to the students of tomorrow. So back when COVID-19 hit us, back when March 18th, Narendra Modi went ahead live on TV and announced that the entire country is going to be in the middle of a lockdown, that everyone is not allowed, anyone in fact is not allowed to step out of their homes. That's when we started thinking that if people cannot come to our space to build things, what is the only solution that we have? And yes, what's going on in your head is absolutely right. When people cannot come down to our space, we took the space to them. We decided that we wanted to build a learning platform that can be showcased online, wherein we can send physical equipments at people's houses and homes so that they can go through a learning journey and make a space at their homes. And that is the kind of idea we started the entire platform of Learn with Makers Asylum, which is housed in this very sweet little website of learn.makersasylum.com. So that's the idea that we started the platform with. That if let's say I as an individual cannot come down to this physical space directly, we are going to figure out ways to have the space come down to you. So yeah, that's what I want to talk about today. I want to utilize the next 10-12 minutes to talk about the kind of platform it is, the way it came up with the kind of courses that we offer, and why we believe it can add a lot of value to not just, let's say, students of today, but parents of today as well. So starting about the learning platform, what it actually is, it's a platform wherein it's a culmination of future skills required in the modern world. The platform primarily focuses in particular to the in-demand skills according to the World Economic Forum's education approach of the 4.0 framework, wherein we are trying to bridge a gap between the employers and employees of tomorrow. And that's the idea that we are working with. I think Devesh has already sent the link on the chat box. So if you guys want, you can feel free to go onto the website and figure out what kind of learning I'm talking about. So the entire idea came in wherein we understood that today, the world that we're living in today, especially in India, or rather in the entire world itself, there's a slight bottleneck, there's a slight gap between the kind of maker skills that are required today, especially in fields like, let's say, design, especially in fields like architecture, especially in fields like engineering, especially in fields coming from any kinds of background which requires those hands-on skills. But we are slightly drifting away to a more AI based, to a more, let's say, software based approach. So that's the kind of mindset that we wanted to start the entire program with, that we do not want any single student or any single person in the entire world to not be left with an opportunity to learn these maker skills. And that's where we came up with the entire platform. So, according to World Economic Forum, according to the World Economic Forum 4.0 educational framework, these are the 8 sets of categories of skill sets that they believe that are going to be the skills of tomorrow. that they believe that every single young person, every single person, 10 years later needs to be analytically thinking, needs to have those innovative skill sets, needs to be proactive and showcase active learning. That person needs to know how to solve complex problems, needs to be creative, original, and to be able to show that initiative to learn new things, needs to be able to understand and use technology in the most and the best efficient way possible, needs to understand technology design and programming, understand how problem solving, design thinking, and ideation works, and more importantly, understand it all from a user's perspective and not from a manufacturer's perspective. So, combining this entire framework, we put it down in a set of skill sets and courses that we believe can add a lot of value to every single young person and every single student, as I've been saying over and over again. So, that's where we came up with these six courses that we have to offer. So, these are the six base courses that we offer to every person basically who wants to become a part of our program. Out of which the first one is virtual reality. So, virtual reality is extremely simple. In the entire program, we take you through AI, we take you through VR, which is virtual reality, and we take you through augmented reality, and we make you understand all this through DIY Google VR cardboard and its lenses itself. So the entire program in itself is 8 sessions. In fact, most of the programs that you see over here are comprising of 8 sessions each, which equals 8 sessions of 1 hour each, which is a total of 8 hours of learning. And that's the first course that we offer is its virtual reality and understanding the app designing for it as well. How can you go ahead and build an app for augmented reality? How can you go ahead and build an app for virtual reality itself? And next we have is 3D printing. I think all of you are already must be already familiar with what 3D printing entails. It's about understanding the machine operations of 3D printing. It's about understanding how the backend of 3D printing works. It's about understanding what kind of programs go behind building modules and building prototypes that can be 3D printed, and basically understanding how the entire framework or the entire process of 3D printing works. And it can be, if I talk about, let's say, 20 years down the line, right now we're looking at a world wherein we are also looking at 3D printing human organs. We're looking at 3D printing on demand equipments that can take us to moon and to the Mars to host a future habitat over there. We are looking at 3D printing that can be used to build sustainable housing at any place in the entire world. So that's the kind of value that I believe 3D printing, actually one of my favorite courses that can add to every single person who enrolls in it. Next we have is electronics and robotics, wherein we basically take a person through a learning journey of 8 sessions, wherein the person understands how a robotic arm works, how can it be put together using a physical kit, and how can it be programmed to function as upon the will of the person who's programming it. So in the entire program, you end up understanding the OHM's law. You end up understanding the different kind of electronic components that are required. You basically go through the entire programming skill set of it, and you understand various small things like transistors, jumper wires, analog circuits, and all kinds of things that basically pertain to electronics in itself. Next, we have is home automation and Internet of Things. I'm not quite sure if a lot of you will be familiar with this term, but I'm quite certain that all of you know that there's this thing that exists in our house that says that's Google Home, or that's, let's say, the Amazon Alexa, or let's say the Microsoft New. So all of these things function with one very simple concept, which is called Internet of Things, and that refers to the physical equipments through which Internet functions. And I'm sure you guys know that Google, Microsoft, Apple, all of these organizations host acres and acres of spaces wherein they have physical equipment lined up in terms of how the servers for internet work for today, how they reach out to every single person in the entire world on their mobile phone, visiting any website for that matter. So all this data is stored at some place, and that's what we take you through. We make you understand how web connected devices and services are capable of sensing, interconnecting, inferring, and acting. Basically, something as small as when you say, "Hey Siri" for your phone, what actually happens that gets the phone to respond. And that's what the course is about. And again, in the entire course itself, you end up receiving a physical kit at your home, and you basically go through a learning journey wherein you understand how to assemble that kit and how to program that kit for you to function and basically be equipped around the skills of IoT and home automation. Next, we have is CAD modeling, which is actually fairly simple. CAD modeling is basically around what kind of sketching and designing and Fusion 360 UI goes behind making basically the programs that can be used to develop as prototype in the near future. And that's what we're talking about. So lastly, we have program and flyer drone. Again, one of the more exciting and one of the more upcoming courses and industries that we are working with. So in program and fly a drone, what we basically do is that you go ahead and assemble a drone from scratch, you program it, and you understand how can a drone solve a problem for in tomorrow's world. How can a drone be used in, let's say, purposes of security? How can a drone be used in, let's say, agriculture? How can a drone be used in any of the social services that we require to service in the future of tomorrow? So these are the six base courses that we offer, out of which drone is slightly an advanced course. And lastly, we have our flagship course, which is design thinking and portfolio building. And just to give you guys a bit of understanding how design thinking and portfolio building works, is that it's especially designed for people who are in ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th grades, who are looking to build a very strong portfolio to showcase skills of innovation when they go ahead and apply to universities of tomorrow, when they go ahead and apply to best universities of tomorrow. Because I'm sure all of you are aware the kind of value innovation, the kind of value that your own prototype and your own innovative measures to solve a problem can add to your profile. And that's what design thinking is about. It's taken up by our CEO itself, which is Vaibhav Chavla, who is a mechanical engineer from Boston University, who also works with MIT, who also works with IIT Bombay, who also works with the French Embassy in the World Economic Forum to understand how maker community can be fostered in India and all across the globe. So he takes up one-to-one sessions with every single student to understand how can we prototype solutions for the kind of problems that the student comes up with. The student himself or herself picks the kind of industry, or rather the problem that they want to work with, and then we go ahead and build a prototype for the same. To give you guys a couple of examples, some of our students are building things like how can deaf people feel music? How can we build mirrors that, let's say, look like mirrors, but when you go closer they show you your in shots of WhatsApp notifications? How can we build instruments with laser strings? How can we reduce carbon waste when it comes to our organizational industries? And that's the kind of emphasis that we lay on design thinking, and that's our flagship course. So that's pretty much more or less about our programs. Now I want to take a couple of minutes to talk about how the framework for these programs work. What kind of timings do we expect from the students to allocate? How does the entire framework work? How does the entire rest of the participants and the rest of, let's say, the aspects of the entire program function? So to start with, it's live online learning, right? When I mean live, I mean that you sit down on a one-to-one basis with the instructor. So when you go ahead and start your programs, when you go ahead and start your classes, which entails 1 hour sessions, depending upon the kind of course that you're in, it could be anything between 8 sessions to 15 sessions. You go through a one-on-one journey with your instructor, because we believe that every single person has a different learning journey. Every single person requires a different amount and kind of attention and nurturing when it comes to building these skill sets. And that's why we offer courses only and only on one-to-one basis and not in any group for that matter. So yeah, you start off by having a live tutoring session with one-to-one basis on your mentors. The best part about these courses is that they are flexible in terms of the schedule. So we as Maker Asylum, we do not come in and say that you have to schedule your classes from 3 to 5 p.m. on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. We don't do that. The student himself or herself goes onto our portal and selects the kind of time slots that they want to work with, be it at any time of the day till 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. and any day throughout the week for that matter. You go ahead and pick your own slots for your own classes. Next is learning from a global community of master makers. So a design thinking and portfolio building program particularly also invites people coming from all sorts of expertise backgrounds who can come down and add that relevant skill set into your portfolio. So let's say if you are aspiring to be an astronaut, or if let's say you're aspiring to be an engineer, or if let's say you are aspiring to be a UI UX designer or an architect for that matter, throughout the design thinking course, we end up inviting an industry expert from the field that you want to work with in the near future, so that that person, when they come in, they can also add a lot of value in terms of what exactly is it that's going on in the industry right now. What exactly are the kind of skill sets, the kind of problems, the kind of solutions that the industry is looking for right now. So yeah, that's also a part of the design thinking program in itself. And then we talk about hands-on learning and toolkits. So as I've mentioned, I think earlier as well, when I go ahead and talk about our learning programs, we get the maker space at your home. So when I talk about courses like electronics and robotics, when I talk about courses like virtual reality, when I talk about drone making, when I talk about Internet of Things, we end up shipping a physical kit that probably consists of all the equipments that you require for the entire course at your home. So that when you go ahead and sit down with your one-to-one mentor, you already have the physical equipments that you require to start the entire program, to go through the entire process. To give you guys one example, let's say when I talk about drone making, we ship you the entire drone kit and the entire program. You go about building that drone, you go about understanding how the aerodynamics in it works, you go about building the programming and the program that basically governs the entire drone. And that's where the toolkits come into play. I think let's say, I mean, doing a drone making course or an electronic course without hands-on learning, without a kit, it seems pointless. So that's why I believe that shipping the kits at your home on a one-to-one basis, I think, is the most efficient way to do so. And lastly, we do project-based learning. We do PBL, which is an instructional methodology encouraging learners to learn by applying knowledge and skills to an engaging experience. So yeah, these are the key USPs of the programs that I can say that we work with. Primarily the aspect of flexible scheduling, one-to-one mentoring, and the physical kit that we deliver to your place. So yeah, that's what the entire concept is about. It's about the space coming to you. It's about when the pandemic hit us and you cannot come down to the space, we take the space to your home, and that's the kind of solution, let's say, the Makers Asylum came up with for the problems that we faced. So the entire concept revolves around the kind of problems that you are seeing in the industry and the relevant world that we live in today, and the kind of solutions that you can build for the same. So that's how the pricing for all the three kinds of programs works in the entire aspect. There are three types of, let's say, packs that we offer. Number one is Explorer, wherein you can go ahead and choose one base course for the entire program, and it costs 7,500. Then we have Tinkerer, in which you can choose two base courses and one advanced course. And when I say advanced course, it means either design thinking or, let's say, drone making for that matter. The expert course, which is the maker course, talks about design thinking. You need to have design thinking as a course in maker because that's more about you building your own portfolio. So when you go ahead and choose the maker program, the maker path, you end up, let's say, taking design thinking, you take drone making, and you take three base courses like, let's say, electronics for that matter, or VR for that matter, or Internet of Things for that matter. And that's how the entire package for it works. So yeah, that's how the entire program functions. That's how the entire learning platform is scheduled. That's how the entire learning platform's framework works. I think that's more or less it that I wanted to talk about today. These are some of the mentors that we work with. These people come from, let's say, various backgrounds and a lot of, let's say, expertise that they add a lot of value. These people are, let's say, professors from IIT Bombay. These professors are from, let's say, coming from backgrounds of MIT and a lot of other backgrounds. And I think I'm slightly over time. So I'll just quickly wrap up by saying that the entire organization is focused on hands-on learning. And we believe that that's a bottleneck in the entire world. And that's exactly what we are trying to solve. So yeah, thank you so much, Devesh, for having me on board. I think we're slightly short on time to have questions, but yeah, I'd love to take as many as possible.
Super. Thank you so much, Aman. Amazing presentation. I really love the what Makers Asylum is doing, and I'm sure students can benefit a lot by doing things with their own hands and learning all the amazing stuff that you're teaching. So I do have a couple of questions which are coming in. The first one is, what is the age group for which the different programs are most suitable? So on the last slide, you showed us three ways in which they can engage with you. Would you recommend us? What age groups would you recommend these programs to?
Yes, to be extremely honest with you, Devesh, we are age agnostic as an organization. There's no particular age that we believe is the right fit. If let's say you're 13 and above, I believe all the programs are the right fit for you. But when let's say I talk about design thinking, or I talk about portfolio building, we do prefer that students from 10th, 11th, and 12th grade come to us, which is I think the 14, 15, and 16 and 17 age group. For any kind of other programs, anyone who's above the age of 13, I think it will be more than comfortable to go through the entire journey because primarily it's one-to-one basis. So we do understand how the learning curve can differ among different kind of students, and we do address that in the initial sessions that we have.
Superb. And what is the duration of these courses or these engagements?
Yes. So let's say when I talk about a course like, let's say, home automation or electronics for that matter, these courses are 8 sessions each, meaning 8 hours of learning. One session equals 1 hour of learning. And if you realize, one of the key USPs that we were talking about was flexible scheduling, that you go ahead and schedule your own classes. If let's say you want to have one class in 3 days, that's completely fine with us. If you want to have one class every single day, that's also completely fine with us. Usually, let's say a course with 8 sessions can be completed within, let's say, a time frame of 2 weeks or 3 weeks for that matter. Something like, let's say, drone making or design thinking, that's 15 sessions each. So we try to pace it out a bit more, especially design thinking, because it requires some sort of analytical ability, that requires some sort of, you know, some sort of understanding of the industry and the problem itself. So we do recommend, let's say in terms of design thinking, people do take 2 to 3 months. But yeah, for the other courses, it's roughly 2 to 3 weeks that we're looking at.
Okay. And do you also work with high schools in some manner?
High schools as well. Yes, so we've been working with schools directly to offer programs as a part of their curriculum. One example that I can give you is that BD Somani in itself is starting a program with us, wherein all the students of BD Somani of 7th grade are going to be a part of the maker courses that we have offered as a part of their curriculum inherently. But is that something that's up and coming? Right now, we're only functioning with a open model wherein anyone and everyone who wants to become a part of our platform goes ahead online and becomes a part of the entire process.
Okay. And while they are doing these courses, what kind of background knowledge do they need to have?
Yes. So when I talk about design thinking, we do prefer that people know at least some sort of experience about the kind of industry and the kind of problem statement they want to work with. So let's say when I give you an example of a student who is working on building, let's say a device that can make people feel music, people who are deaf in nature, that student already has some sort of knowledge about how these programs are built. So in design thinking, we do prefer that, let's say, if you are into UI UX, if you're into coding, if let's say you are into architecture, you do know at least something or the other about the industry so that you can identify problems and you can grasp things quickly. If you do not know those things, we prefer that you go through the base courses first. That lets you understand home automation, you understand CAD modeling, you understand electronics, and then you apply for these courses. But let's say all the other courses for that matter, there's no, let's say, prior experience or prior knowledge that's required. They start from scratch and they end with scratch. And since they're on one-to-one basis, there's a lot of flexibility in terms of the curriculum as well, even if let's say you have zero experience, and even if let's say you already know a lot about the industry.
Okay, superb. And let's say someone wants to join the makers course, the main course, the flagship program. Do you also help in sort of creating a new idea or brainstorming for the idea, and then additionally provide those materials to sort of create that?
Yes. So, in fact, that's the core idea of the entire course. We help you frame your problem statement. If, let's say, you have identified one industry that you want to work with, the first step is that you understand the kind of problems that the industry is facing. How the design thinking process works is that you first understand empathy, which is understanding the problem from a consumer's perspective, then putting it down in a problem statement. Then we help you in the entire solution brainstorming part of it. We help you in understanding the prototyping aspect of it. We help you in documenting the entire project, and we do help you sourcing the right materials that are required in prototyping the entire process, because it's about right from starting to build the problem statement to documentation and closure. So everything is covered in those 15 sessions itself.
Okay, superb, wonderful. We have time for one final question. A student wants to know when should they enroll if they want to do the makers course in the summer of 2021.
If let's say you want to start off by summer of 2021, you can reach out to us by somewhere around March or April, depending upon the slots that are available for the entire course. Because we do work with minimal slots, primarily because the entire program is delivered by Vaibhav Chabra himself, the design thinking program, and he takes up only a limited number of students for the entire process. So yeah, I think you reach out to us by March or April.
Okay, wonderful. So we are almost coming towards the end of the call. Any final word of advice for these bright learners?
Absolutely, I think it's more about for every single person who's in, let's say, seventh, eighth, sixth, seventh, ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, for that matter. It's completely okay if you're lost in terms of what you wish to pursue in the near future. It's completely okay if you haven't decided what you want to become 5, 10 years, 15 years down the line. Because what I can tell you is that it's completely fine to be in that spot because all of you are in a similar spot. And when you go ahead and approach a course, it's not about Makers Asylum, it's not about any XYZ organization, it's not about any skill set that you're willing to learn. What my advice would be is that actually apply for these courses to learn and not to build a stronger CV and not to build a stronger profile. It's about understanding and learning these courses to actually learn. And that's why our program is also called Learn with Makers Asylum and not CV Building with Makers Asylum. So that's the entire advice that I'd give to every young person, because I just graduated out of college itself, and I'm very well aware of the kind of learning and the kind of expertise college requires. So yeah, all the very best to everyone ahead. I
Wow,
think we'd love to have you guys on board for any kind of program.
great, wonderful. Aman, there is one final question. A student wants to know that your sustainability program is from December 7 to 18, but they have exams during that period. Someone has an exam during that period. So are there any other dates, or how can they sort of participate in that program?
Yes. So SDG school in itself, it happens twice a year. This year we're hosting it virtually for the first time. Usually it happens either in Mumbai or in Paris. So yeah, this year we're hosting it virtually, but it happens twice a year. So we'll be again back with the another edition of SDG school, which will happen in Goa as as a residential program for 20 to 30 days. And then again in December next year, we'll be doing it in Paris. So we'd love to have you on board for the next editions that we have coming.
Superb, wonderful. So once again, thank you, Aman, for presenting the session, for sharing all the superb information with us. Um, all the students here, we have recorded this session. It's live on our YouTube channel. If you missed out a part of it, just go on on our YouTube channel and you'll be able to watch this recording. So once again, thank you everyone for joining. Have a great day and looking forward to meeting you again in the next sessions. Thank you, Aman, for joining. Bye.
Yes, thank you.